Just think about all the years that were wasted with this misunderstanding.
Being attached to the past might be the worst thing that one could do in terms of being able to make good decisions in this context. Because we have a kind of a playbook of what's worked and what hasn't worked, but you actually talk about this to be beware of the assumption that the way you work is the best way, simply because it's the way you've done it before. I sat with this page for almost 10 full minutes, which is not something I do very often. Maybe you could elaborate on this a little bit. I mean, we want to have, mechanisms and routines we can trust, but this is I think, an important warning.
Yeah. When something works, it's easy to be fooled into believing that's the way to do it, or that's the right way. It's just a way, and it's just a way that happened to work that time. And this plays into when you get advice from people who have more experience than you. You explain your situation, they tell you their advice. The advice that they're giving you is not based on your life or your experience, it's based on their life and their experience. And the stories that they're telling are based on experiences they've had that have very different data points than yours. So maybe they're giving you good advice, but maybe they're giving you good advice for them and not giving you good advice for you. And it's easy when we try something and have a result, a positive result, thinking everybody can do this. I was vegan for a long time, 22 years. I started eating animal protein and then eventually changed my diet a few times to the point where I lost a lot of weight. The way that I did it worked for me. Right before that happened, I did something that I was told that everyone else who did what you did, they all lost weight. For whatever reason, I didn't. So the idea that we know what's right for someone else, I think it's hard enough to even figure out what's right for ourselves. And if we do somehow crack the code of what's right for us, be happy we have it, and then still know, I wonder if that's the only way. Maybe there's an even better way that we're not considering. Not to get comfortable with thinking we know how it works just because we get the outcome we want.
I was raised in science with a principle. It was literally dictated to me as a principle, almost like a rule of religion, which was that the brain is plastic. It can change and learn until you're about 25, and then the critical periods end, and that's it. But I was told there was no changing of brain structure function in any meaningful way after age 25 or so. Turns out that's completely wrong. Sorry, David and Torsten, but they knew it was wrong. It was actively suppressed because of the competitive nature of prizes and discoveries at that time. And a guy named Mike Merzenich and his student, Greg Reckenzone, were showing that adult plasticity exists. And only now is this really starting to emerge as a theme, right? Just crazy. There were so many reasons, and the textbooks said it. We were all told it, and it changed our behavior. Now we know this to be completely false. There's plasticity throughout the lifespan. There's limits to it here and there, but it's just far and away a different story.
So why would that be the only time that ever happened?
Right, exactly. But the field was run by a very small cabal of people at that time.
All fields are run by a very small cabal of people who have an investment in things being the way they are now because they're in charge. Just think about all the years that were wasted with this misunderstanding.
And what I look to is acupuncture. For a lot of years, people said, well, acupuncture, this is no mechanism. There's a lab at Harvard, a guy named Chu-Fu Ma, who I know reasonably well, whose laboratory is dedicated to trying to figure out the biological mechanisms of acupuncture. And they're discovering what everyone has known for thousands of years, which is that incredible effects on anti-inflammation, the gut microbiome.
I have a friend who was having a terrible back problem, and I suggested that he see an acupuncturist. And he went to the acupuncturist that I suggested, and his back problem completely healed almost instantaneously. And I asked him, have you been keeping up? Because he had another flare-up. He's like, no, I can't go back there because acupuncture doesn't work. I said, well, you saw it work for you. He's like, yeah, but there's no science.